The Jersey Shorts podcast is back, and unfortunately, we do not have Epic with us because if you guys follow him on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, maybe you may know this already, but he's not with us because he's covering the 2023 FIBA World Cup that's happening right now in Manila. So it's for me. I'm proud to be a colleague, a friend of him. You know, I'm proud to say that hey, I know that guy. He interviewed Steve Kerr and Austin Reeves, and
Yeah, Austin
he's
Reeves.
it's
we
amazing.
we
Yeah.
have a real journalist in our midst. Basically,
Yes.
is what it is. We have a guy
Yes.
who actually goes and
Yeah.
Yeah.
talks to the players. So that's good.
So after all this, after the World Cup, hopefully we'll get him back on like a regular schedule. So the four of us will be reunited once more because we haven't had any chances, real chances, where we could record with all four members since episode
No.
2, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or episode 3. So that I'm excited, and I'm hoping, or I do know, I'm aware that he has a lot to talk about. So maybe we'll dedicate one episode where he'll just
Special
take over
episode.
and we'll listen. Yeah. So because it's a dream experience, and I know he's having a great time. So Epic, good job, my friend. We're happy for you, and we can't wait to have you back on the pod. Anyway, so we mentioned that the 2023 FIBA World Cup is has kicked off last week, I guess. So three host countries, that's Japan, Indonesia, and our very own Philippines. So it's very fulfilling to have us, host this kind of prestigious event because, as we all know, the Philippines is a nation that has been a fan of the sport of basketball for a very, very long time, and it's great to have the best players of each country participate and uh, play in front of basketball fans. And of course, we're all rooting for our home countries. Us, we want Gilas to do well, but we'll talk about Gilas later on. So the favorites to win has always been the United States,
Yeah.
and they don't boast the best roster in terms of like the standard that they've held up over the past years, in terms of international basketball, because they've had roster like FIBA rosters with a young Curry, James Harden, Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, Kyrie. So those were like that roster back in 2014 was great, and of course the Olympics rosters. They had the Dream Team, the Redeem Team, the 2012 London Olympics team. Great roster, but right now they only have like four All Stars, if I'm not mistaken, and they're still the favorites, I think. And so to segue to the topic of discussion right now is uh, the U.S. national team have a lack of stardom, you know, and in a sense. So, but the one that stands out the most is Anthony Edwards, who has been incredible for them. So the question right now for Anthony Edwards, or for us about Anthony Edwards, is he the X factor for them to winning gold this year? So Miguel, you weren't here last episode. You take the floor on this one.
I wouldn't say that he's the X factor because in my eyes, the way I've seen, I didn't get to watch like the full games for the USA because he's probably number one or the number two option. And for me, when you say someone is the X factor, he's someone who isn't necessarily the guy whom you expect to be, the number one offensive option. You think about your X factor guys, they're your guys who get it done on the defensive end or on the rebound, or they grab the rebounds, they hustle. That to me is the definition of X factor. I wouldn't say that Anthony Edwards is the X factor. I would say that he is the leader on offense. for Team USA. Uh, and when it comes to like star power and all that, I agree that we're more used to seeing a Team USA roster that has household name guys who are considered superstars in the NBA, which is, I think we're all in agreement, the best basketball league in the world. But I don't think Team USA needs to send their superstars or like the household name superstars, guys who win MVP awards and all that, to be considered the favorites. There's just no way that there are other teams out there who can match just the star power of Team USA, even if they send guys who aren't like all stars consistently or anything like that. I think when it in terms of talent, Team USA is still just several steps ahead of the best in the world, except maybe teams like Spain, because the Spanish players, those guys are crazy. But the style of play is a little bit different, I would say, between the
Yeah, yeah.
Spanish and the Team USA. But when it comes to like who the favorites are, sure, Team USA is right there at the top. But I would say that both Spain and Canada are a close second right now. Just because looking at what Canada has, they're also stacked with NBA talent, and for sure,
They do.
it's
Yeah,
not.
they are.
Yeah, right. It's not like they're not superstars. You have Kelly Olynyk, Dylan Brooks, and all these guys. They're not superstars, but if you put them up against other players from other nations, those guys are still, I think, more skilled, more talented, or they're more developed. They have a more refined game that translates well into international basketball, and that's true for any of the NBA superstars. But if you pay attention to the game of some of the guys who are in the NBA, they also really do well in international competitions like FIBA. So but again, regardless, Team USA I think is the absolute favorite with Ant as their offensive leader.
That's a good take. That's a good take. I can't. Um. Well, I do agree with your take when you said that he's the leader on the offensive end, because I think he does come off the bench for the U.S., but he does a lot on that side of the floor. He contributes heavily on scoring the basket more compared to the other guys, because these other guys like Bobby Portis, Jaren Jackson Jr., their tasks are like to defend, stretch the floor, and all that. And Halliburton is tasked to facilitate and stuff. So yeah, he could be like all these other guys can score at a high level because these are NBA players, but Ant does it the best in this squad. So Juan, what about you? Is Ant the X factor or not?
Well, I don't know if Ant is the X factor. I think Team USA's X factor is Austin Reeves because he's gonna bring that energy. He's gonna hype up the crowd because Filipinos love him because he's from the Lakers, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Filipinos are either Warriors bandwagons
or
or
Lakers
Lakers
bandwagons. Yeah,
bandwagons.
yeah.
Yeah,
But Austin Reeves has proven that he deserves the spot or he earned the spot. He's gonna be the X factor, I think, for them. As for Ant, since this Team USA is not the most talented or the most stacked team, because you have guys like Bobby Portis, Walker Kessler, right? So they're not stacked in terms of the 2014 team or the 2010 World Cup teams. You have the future of the league there, and in terms of the 2023 roster, and Halliburton, uh, Banquero, they are the future of the NBA, right? So
yeah,
it's like a passing of the torch thing for the FIBA World Cup. But in terms of Ant, I think he's gonna be the go-to guy when it's close, because that's what he is for the Timberwolves back in the playoffs, is taking clutch shots, right? So I think that's what his role is gonna be when the going
yeah.
gets tough. I think Steve Kerr's gonna give him the ball and let him, be him, right? So I think that's gonna be what's the role for Edwards. X factor will be Austin Reeves, and another X factor I think would be Jaren Jackson Jr. because he
Okay.
fouled out in the first game, and if the USA wants to continue dominating, he doesn't they can't afford for him to foul out in a knockout game because
Yeah.
he's the best defender, and if he fouls out, their center is Paulo Banquera, and well, he did a great job against New Zealand, but when when they bang with maybe Lithuania or Montenegro or whoever, you have a big man like Valanciunas, Vucevic. I mean, but Banquero is a wing. He's just gonna get manhandled down there, and that's gonna be a problem for the US. So Jaren Jackson needs to mellow down on his aggressiveness and the fouls, which has been his problem in the NBA. And
Yeah. That,
what's worse, I think, in FIBA, you only have 5 fouls, so you can't really afford to be careless. You need to like be careful. You have to time your fouls if you're, you know, per se, because you just can't have like 2 quick fouls, like 3 quick fouls
yeah.
in a quarter. So I think he's those guys, Reeves and Jackson for the X factor. And if the going gets tough, you give the ball to Ant or Jalen Brunson. Those two, I
Yeah.
think.
Jalen Brunson.
Because Jalen
That's
Brunson
good.
is, I think, he's the facto voice of the damn roster, right? Because that's what he is for the Knicks and for the Mavericks when he was there. Even though Lucas was there, Brunson was the guy that the Mavericks listened to. He's a born leader, right? And the only one who doesn't listen to him is Josh Hart, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, if the going gets tough, I think they're gonna go. Kerr's gonna go with Brunson and that. So that's my take on that.
That's true.
And they're still gonna win it. I mean, I think the only problem they will have is with Canada if they face in the finals or semifinals maybe. So yeah.
Yeah. Um. That is true. When you said about Jaren Jackson Jr. is his struggle to not foul. Oh, we get that he's like their best defender, and not just for Team USA, but also for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's like their best defender, but he just can't. He has to learn how to not commit fouls, especially in the second half. Because if even if you have like 3 fouls, for example, or 2 fouls after the first half, you can still turn things around on this in the second half, and like change up your game and how you defend guys, right? So I think he just needs to be a smart defender and just don't jump on every, don't contest on every shot, because that's what's going to get you fouled out. And looking back in their game against New Zealand, was that their first game of the tournament
Yeah, that was the
against New
first
Zealand?
game. Excuse. Yeah,
That
that
was
was
their
the
first
first
game,
game.
right?
Yeah.
And New Zealand, they didn't have Steven Adams, and but early in the first, the
They
U.S.
got
struggled.
they got a
They
New
got like
Zealand has a 10 point lead. I think.
Yeah, they got a 10-point lead. So the question now is how well do you think the U.S. has adjusted to international basketball rules? Because if uh, if we're looking at the roster, none of these guys have been in like this kind of stage, other than like maybe Tyrese Halliburton and a few other young guys who have played in the under 19 FIBA games, back in 2019 or whenever. So, how well do you think they've handled themselves in terms of like um, being composed and keeping up with the rules of FIBA? Juan, you take it away.
I think the first quarter in New Zealand they were still trying to adjust, and who was the player? Brandon Ingram had a recent interview wherein he was still struggling with the way how FIBA works or the physicality for international basketball. So I think they are still in another adjustment period. But maybe for other guys, Banquero never had a problem adjusting. He was way physical in against New Zealand. Brunson was really solid. Miguel Bridges. Cam Johnson was also solid, but they have to adjust. And the reason why Steve Kerr, Miami Spolstra, Eric Spolstra of the Miami Heat is there is because they are the masters of in-game adjustments, and they studied under Greg Popovich for Team USA, but last 2021, 2020 Olympics. So they're gonna adjust because they're NBA players, for God's sake, right? They have to. And if they don't, they have another 2004 team on their hands if they don't adjust. But I think they're gonna adjust, and they're just gonna probably struggle maybe first quarter because they have they're feel out the opponent. So, but this I think with Greece, I think they're facing Greece tonight. So with Greece, I think they have a pretty good chance because they already played Greece during the tune-ups. So they know how they play, and Thanasis is really okay, right?
Yeah, and they don't have Giannis, so
They don't have
that's kind of
Giannis,
like a yeah.
so it's still an adjustment in terms of because the refs are calling like they let you go, then they're calling soft fouls. Some of the calls are inconsistent, so they still have to adjust with that. But the physicality is really, it's really there. If you watch the Philippines versus DR, Cat was getting hammered, and fouls don't get called a lot, and Cat was like begging for calls. So yeah, the USA is gonna have their time to adjust, and I think by the second round, they figured it out. I think they'll figure it out by second round. So I'm not worried about them. Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Miguel? How well do you think the US has adjusted to the rules?
I think the fact that they won 99-72 against New Zealand is just, it means they've adjusted very, very well. It might be like the first experience for most of these guys in the international stage with the FIBA set of rules, which is of course different from the NBA rules. But these guys are some of the smartest basketball players in the world, and they were given enough time to adjust. It's not like a week before the competition they just announced the roster. They had time to practice under the FIBA set of rules when they were choosing the guys for the team, when they were doing all those tune-ups and all those trainings. They of course would have practiced under the FIBA set of rules, and being some of the smartest guys in terms of like basketball IQ, they'll be fine, right? Because the truth is there's probably less to think about in terms of rules, right? Like the goaltending rule is different for FIBA. The defensive 3-second rule is different for FIBA. So you could go ahead and tell your big guys like Portis and Jaren Jackson Jr., you know what? You don't have to worry about moving around too much when you're in the paint. You could just anchor the paint. You could just stay there. So, there's less to think about. There's, I don't know what, if there's like a take foul in FIBA, like the way they do in the NBA, which was recently implemented in the NBA and all that. But, I think there's less technical stuff to think about in FIBA because I feel like the NBA is more of they develop rules that are sometimes geared towards being entertaining, while FIBA just develops rules more towards like just the competition side of things without thinking too much about, is this going to sell? Is this going to be like something that sells tickets? Is this going to get people to subscribe to NBA Plus and stuff like that? Is it going to be something that people want to watch and spend money on? That's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
something that
yeah.
the FIBA rules think about. People watch FIBA because there's this national pride thing, and you're watching like the best players in
It's
the
true.
world, and they don't need to worry about selling tickets the way the NBA does. So, the rules are different, but I think it's easier to adjust to the FIBA rules because you're thinking less about the entertainment factor of it and more about the
That's
competition. And when it comes to like the question is, has USA adjusted? Yeah, absolutely. I think so. It's not like they had a lot of silly, violations that could be attributed to them not knowing how to play FIBA rules. They were okay. The fact that they won 99-72 is all you need to know, I think.
Yeah. I think after this World Cup, the players who are in the USA roster, I think I'm looking forward to them not committing a traveling violation, because in their first game against the New Zealand team, they had like a bunch of turnovers, including a few traveling violations. So, they were like pivoting both feet, and like refs, like in FIBA, they're very keen. They're very alert in terms of like who commits a traveling violation and stuff. As compared to the NBA, they let you take like 5 steps and
Eight
then dunk
steps.
on.
Yeah, because it's more
Some are
entertaining when you do that.
worse. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, that's one of my biggest
That's true.
frustrations with the NBA is
Yeah,
I was
they
growing up.
barely
I was
call.
training with basketball, and I
Yeah.
was when you lift the ball, when you hold the ball with both hands, when you travel. These are called all the time, and people like to tell you these are the basics. If you want to become a pro, if you wanna play at the professional level, these are the things you need to do. And the pinnacle of professional basketball, the NBA, they don't do that. So that's frustrating to me,
yeah,
because well, I thought I had to learn these things. So how come the best athletes in the world they could get away with taking 5 steps, 6 steps on their way to a monster dunk?
yeah. I mean,
How come they can
It's
do like three
it's all
steps to take a step
it's
back jumper, right?
it's all because of the gather rule.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, the
that's
gather rule is
Yeah,
confusing,
yeah,
and
that's.
it's
But
manipulating the rule book and stuff.
yeah,
but that's towards the entertainment value of things.
yeah.
If a guy can come in and do a monster dunk and be able to gather enough momentum, enough speed to jump over his defender, I feel like the NBA probably thinks, oh, we won't sell as much. It won't be there won't be as many
Yeah,
highlights. You won't get these like crazy James Harden step back threes where you're taking
Double
two
step
threes,
backs.
right? Double step backs.
Double
So,
step
but
double
backs.
that's
step backs, triple step
right.
backs,
Yeah.
quadruple step backs,
It's
you name it.
frustrating
Another
sometimes.
another reason why people hate Harden.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
The
Adding
the
fuel
way
to the fire on your recent
yeah,
reel, bruh.
yeah.
it's crazy.
All right, so we've talked USA basketball. Now
Oh
let's
boy.
go local,
Here we go.
because I know you guys have a lot to say with how our national team has quote unquote performed in these games. Okay, so they lost their game against Dominican Republic, which was their first game. For me, actually, I thought it was a winnable game. Okay, I thought it was a winnable game, and then they lost yesterday against Angola. And I don't have much to say with that. It's frustrating. Okay, I'll start off with this. I'll start off with something controversial. Okay, um, the head coach for the Gilas Pilipinas, Chot Reyes,
Oh.
he should not be allowed to be involved in any international basketball. He should not be affiliated. He should not be a head coach. He should not screen players, staff, whatever. Just stick to the PBA, bro. You have done enough damage. You have done enough damage. You don't know how to, mix and match your players, and you mismanage minutes. Uh, you don't know how to have a more fluid or team oriented offense. So for me, it's kind of it's tiring to root for a national squad that can't even win. You know, I mean, I get that we're all loyal to the Gilas Pilipinas team because we want them to win.
Yeah, we
We
want them to
want
win.
we want them to win, even if it's just one win. Because remember back in like I can't remember which World Cup it was,
2014.
but
This 2014.
2014
Yeah.
was
Is
it?
that when
Was
they
that
beat
when?
Senegal? Is that when they
They
beat
beat oh,
Senegal?
yeah, we
Is
beat
when,
Senegal. Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was it. They had one
Yeah.
win against
that
Senegal.
was it.
Yeah.
One win,
Yeah.
one
And
win, and they
we
were like voted.
celebrated like we won the
Yeah,
damn
yeah,
thing.
But that was
they
this
were.
crazy celebration. It's like we
Yeah.
won gold. We beat an international team. Everyone
Yeah.
was like going crazy, and that was one win. And they didn't
That's
even
I
like
think I think
get
we won
past
the
it.
fan I think we won the fan award that year
Yeah,
because of the celebration.
they
So
became famous.
yeah. I mean
They
we
became
won.
because
We celebrate that. We
it's
won.
frustrating.
They beat
It's
Senegal.
annoying.
One win. They they had one win for the whole thing. One win in
One win.
Senegal.
And like the Senegal team was like, okay, bro, okay.
And to
And
top it off, we didn't win any game in 2015, in 2019. I think we were zero
yeah,
and
we did.
five. Yeah. So
And I'm hoping we get at least one here
yeah,
this
against
year.
Italy,
At
we're gonna
least one.
face Italy tomorrow. So there's hope.
Yeah. There's hope because they don't have they is Danilo Gallinari playing?
No,
I
it's
don't think
not.
he's playing,
No,
right?
he's injured.
He's
He's
not
still
playing.
Yeah,
recovering.
he's hurt. That was because
Yeah.
he was hurt after he joined the Boston Celtics. Everyone
Oh
was
yeah, I
going, "Oh,
remember. I
now
remember.
Boston has like crazy offense off the bench." 'Cause down they have
Yeah, yeah.
Gallinari,
Yeah.
they have all the other guys
And
who coming off the
that's
bench,
the
but
reason.
Gallinari got hurt.
Yeah, yeah.
They also don't have
I
Nico
remember now.
Mannion, so
Yeah,
they're not at
Okay,
their full strength.
two ex NBA players not playing.
Yeah.
So going back to Gilas, it's frustrating because we're rooting for Gilas Pilipinas, right?
Of
And
course. Yeah.
we have all these like hashtag Laban Pilipinas, hashtag Puso.
Yes.
And it's annoying. You can't even win one game, bro. It's frustrating. So that's my opening statement when it comes to Gilas Pilipinas is that Chot Reyes should hand over the keys to someone else. Maybe Tab Baldwin again. You know, he
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I know there's politics involved in
Politics.
every like basketball federation stuff, but if you want your fans, if you want the Filipino people to feel proud of what they're rooting for, you put politics aside, man. You should just leave that and concentrate on making it a better team, a better roster. Incorporate a better system. So Miguel, I know you have a lot to say. You go ahead. So far, Gilas Pilipinas, what do you have to say for them? What do you have to say about them?
they're winless, which is very frustrating. Through two winnable games. Um, we watched the first game together. Rain and I
Yeah, yeah.
watched the game together against Dominican Republic, and I made this comment because I think you remember because I said that this is like going to be one of my greatest takes ever. I said by the 3 minute mark, things will fall apart for one of these teams. I said that,
You
and
did. You said that.
Rain is like obviously the only witness to me saying that. But what happened at the 3 minute 30 second mark? Jordan Clarkson fouled
They
out.
fouled out.
He fouled out.
Yeah,
Iffy call though. Iffy call.
Yeah, it was a little bit.
it
It's one
was.
of those calls that could have gone either way. But still, he had he had four fouls, but I think he already had foul trouble even
He
before the
did.
I
second
think yeah,
half.
it
I
was
think
three
right.
fouls. I think in the third quarter,
Yeah,
and his
it's
fourth foul was another easy call. I think it was a
yeah,
loose ball foul. So
it's
it's called
it is
They, one thing I noticed about FIBA refs,
yeah
they call loose ball fouls really loose.
yeah
So yeah,
yeah that's crazy. I mean, I was getting frustrated. Of course, I felt like some of the fouls could have gone either way, but I'm not really the type to criticize a call that have gone either way because refs, of course, they're only human, and I understand that. So when a foul goes either way, you gotta make a decision. You blew the whistle, you gotta make a decision. You gotta, you just gotta stick with it with whatever you decided. But anyway, one of the things I noticed was um, the only play that they had was to give Clarkson the ball and just go
And
with
get
it.
out of the
That was it.
way.
That was literally the only play, and it worked. I mean, here's the thing: at the first quarter, he was struggling. He was struggling to score. Second quarter, he wasn't really finding his groove, and then after halftime, he made this. He had this little weird fadeaway floater thing where
Yeah,
he took a defender off the dribble and then he drove in from mid range, had this little fadeaway floater, and from there he was starting to hit shots. But still, when he was struggling in the first, should have maybe rested a little bit more. Maybe should have talked to him a little bit more. But here's the thing: I don't know what Chot Reyes would say to him. His only play was to give it to Clarkson. That was it. I mean, think count the number of off-ball screens that the Philippines gave. I swear you'd be able to count it in your 10 fingers. Count the number of screens set.
Barely off screens.
Barely, right?
Yeah.
Barely worked to get other guys open off the ball, or even screens for Clarkson were a bit scarce, right? You barely noticed motion plays. The only thing going on for them was ISO, ISO, ISO. And there was all these he could drive and kick, drive and kick. But Dominican Republic, they knew what he was doing, right? Eventually they figured it out. They knew how to defend him. They knew how to defend the Philippines because they knew that it was going to be just Clarkson. They would pressure him from all the way, full court pressure. And that was like what, second quarter, third quarter, they were already giving him full court pressure. They knew what they were doing. They were tiring him out because they knew at the end of it was going to be Clarkson, Clarkson, Clarkson. And here comes my second gripe with that team. Kiefer Ravenna played so well. Kiefer Ravenna played so well, right?
First
He
half,
did.
yeah.
You could afford to have given Clarkson more than a minute's rest. I think Clarkson sat down twice for the whole game, and the amount of time accumulated for him in the bench was probably 2 minutes total, which could have worked if you were actually running plays for the other guys, and he was just like he was the centerpiece, but he was, he was part of motion plays. He was part of plays where he could just not drive in and get someone open outside or inside. If there were actually plays being called aside from ISO, it would have worked if he only sat for 2 minutes for the whole game. But that wasn't the case. The Dominican Republic knew that they had to tire him out. They were, pressuring him on full court. Kiefer Ravenna should have had more minutes. He was incredible. Played very little minutes, but he showed that, whatever it is he's learned playing, he plays overseas, right? He plays in Japan. Whatever it is he learned playing in Japan, it really
Yes, Japan.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So there's that. And then mismanagement of minutes, lack of play calling. There's so much I have to say about Coach Reyes, honestly, but I don't want this to turn into that 18-minute Wemby rant that I had the first time. But
It could
Yeah,
be
that's
longer. It
right.
could be
This
longer.
could go
could go
longer
longer.
Yeah.
if I went on and on about the coach. Here's the thing: you could criticize so many guys. I think there are people who are criticizing Kai for only having
No,
this many minutes and like the
no.
fouls,
I
but
mean,
that's
he
not
was
on him.
unplayable because of the matchup issues.
Yeah, the matchup issues is not.
Mm.
They didn't. The coaching didn't create favorable matchups for Kai. He could have been, a great. Just he could have contributed, especially on defense. Right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to have him come up on Carl Anthony Towns when he's on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Right? Why
Yeah.
is Kai Soto going up to the perimeter to take on Carl Anthony Towns, who's actually a pretty
Yeah, that
athletic?
was
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's stupid. You can't go on and Kai Soto and say, oh, he sat down, he had like 20, he averaged 25 claps, 27 Gatorades, and all that. It's not on him. It's not because Kai, it's not because Kai is a terrible player. It's because he has a terrible coach for the Philippines. So I'm gonna end it there before I go for another 20 minutes. But here's the thing: the players for the Philippines, they do well. They're just poorly coached.
Yes. I agree with that. Oh, I
okay.
think that-
So
is there
after
any-
Rain is.
Miguel's
Rain is
I
rant,
don't
there?
know. He's just
Is
frozen.
there-
Oh,
All right.
he's back. He's back.
All right.
oh, I'm out. I'm out. Okay, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
All right.
okay, okay. I thought you
So
were out.
okay, I had connectivity issues.
Some technical
So Juan,
difficulties,
what about
ladies
you?
and gentlemen. All right. So Miguel talked about
Yeah.
Dominican Republic, right? So I think I need to talk about Angola. So they had a big lead, I think, against Angola the first quarter. Then
Mhm.
Angola came back in the second quarter. Then by the third quarter, they stuck with, I think, three big men, and just two lanky guards, and they just basically out rebounded the Philippines. So and to make it worse, like I think we went small at some point there, right? And it was baffling that you know they didn't make the adjustment until the I think the last 4 minutes with Edu
Yeah. Yeah.
and the Brecha and then Abando, right? So I think if they did make the adjustment in the third quarter when it was close, it would have been a more closer game, and we would have won. I think when the shots weren't falling for Gilas in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, because the threes are not falling, right? So if the threes are not falling, you have to have a backup play, not just an ISO for
Yeah. Yeah.
JC.
Absolutely.
You have to run an offense wherein you get guys going,
Mm-hmm.
easy 2 points and stuff like that. And with three big guys, you really can't do that, right? Because you only have shooters who can't shoot at that game. So I think I'm not a coach. I'm not a what. I think if you put in three big guys with those three big men, I think you would have given uh the shooters. You're gonna be left with two shooters, probably Pogoy and JC, right? Or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jace, yeah.
Absolutely.
So the three bigs are gonna clog up the lane, and we have Jumar who proved that he can really score. World
Mm-hmm.
Cup now, and we
Yeah.
have maybe Japet or Edu, who's gonna attract defenses, and that's gonna open up more easy shots for two shooters. The down court, and Japet can stretch the floor too. So and Kai as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they definitely could have made the adjustment much sooner, and we just need motion offense, man.
We absolutely do. I
I
Yeah,
think
we
mean,
one
do. We
example
do.
is
that's the only
right.
thing that's missing, and I think Yang Giao pointed this out. I think last
Mm-hmm.
week, like we're already way past our expiration date in terms of our culture for basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because our culture for basketball is ISO, drive and kick. You know, so uh, we need to work on our passing, ball movement, moving without the ball, because that's
Yeah.
modern
Yeah.
basketball now.
Modern
I mean,
basketball.
you don't have to be a great shooter for that to work, because you're gonna
Absolutely
get
not.
open
Yeah.
shots, jump shots, layups, 3 point shots for your shooters. Yeah, driving lane for your guys. And a great example for this is Japan. Japan defeated freaking Finland,
Mm-hmm.
right? With
Yeah.
motion
Yeah.
offense. And I think if you look at Japan's roster, they're very similar to our roster. So
Yeah.
that's proof. You just need motion
Yeah.
offense.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys can learn motion offense. I mean, it's stubborn if you don't learn a new offense,
Yeah.
but the stubbornness would be the coaches, and our local coaches don't want to innovate. That's the sad part, right?
That's
That's why I
true.
don't watch the PBA anymore. I'm yeah, cause
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right,
I agree. I feel you.
and the influence of betting is there. So
Yeah.
there's some iffy things there. But
It
in
is.
terms of offense, we don't have motion offense, right? And I don't know if there are any local coaches. My friends who watches local basketball said that probably Coach Ayo of Phoenix
Mm-hmm.
uses motion offense, as well as Chris Gavina, who is in Taiwan now. So they use motion offense. So if the local coaches don't want anyone from international coaches, they can look for local coaches, young local coaches who thinks about innovating our offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the old heads. The old heads are, I respect what they did for the Philippine basketball, but the reason we're not moving past the Puso thing is we're stuck with the Puso thing. We need to
Yeah.
move forward with motion basketball, man. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's more fun because the ball is shared,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not eyesore. The two games was an eyesore when JC was not isolating. Because when it's
Mm-hmm.
JC, you know something's gonna happen, which is fine. That he's a great player. He's an NBA player, former six man, great scorer. And if you give him the ball in the ISO, that's fine. He's gonna find people. He's gonna score. That's fine. But if you put it, you know, not gonna diminish Ravenna, Dwight, and Scotty. But there's level to this game, and if you give him the ISO, if you give those three the ISO, the defender's just gonna, stop them at their tracks, and the play's dead. And I think they
Yeah.
had a stretch of like 2, 3 possessions where they're making shots, but that's with that's what's real about bailout plays. You can only use it for, I don't know, it's gonna work for a limited amount of time, and it's not gonna work most of the time. That's why it's called bailout. No one just, hey, you're gonna do a bailout
Yeah,
play,
yeah, yeah.
right? So if
It's
you
the kind
just,
of play that you incorporate into the offense. It's like
yeah,
an option every now and then, but not
yeah,
like your main thing.
yeah. I mean, it's still good to have that ISO when it comes to the late game situations, because when ISO, that's much better if you have a caliber of JC. If you want a game winner, go with an ISO play, right? That's most of the time it's gonna happen. But if it's a game, man, just go with a motion offense, man. I mean, watching Golden State. I mean, we don't have, the Filipinos don't have the caliber of the Golden State Warriors, but I
Yeah.
mean, Japan, man, Japan defeated
Actually,
Finland.
yeah, man, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Aside from Japan, actually, another team that I would point out that does really well with sharing the ball, and
Oh,
people might say, "Oh, it's because like these teams, oh, they have superstars, they have NBA level players, they have Yuta Watanabe, blah blah." Blah. Think about Latvia. Think about
oh
what
yeah.
Latvia does. Latvia
Oh,
in their
they
in their
beat
first game, right,
they beat
against
France as
Lebanon.
well.
Yeah, they beat France as well. In their first game against Lebanon, they won 109-70. They
Oh,
had 34 total assists, and they shot like what? They
oh, they
shot
shot this.
51% from downtown. They shot
Yeah,
almost 60% from the field.
yeah,
And this is an example of when you don't really need an NBA superstar. Who's
yeah.
the only NBA player like that's on the Latvian team? The only guy you
I think it's
recognize, Davis
Bertans.
Bertans,
Yeah,
and he's not even like actively, a part of a
he's
starting five.
a role player
He's
at
a role
best. Yeah.
player. He barely got minutes with Dallas. So that's an example that I think
Yeah,
is another
and
close
Pop.
example.
Yeah,
I think.
Coach Popovich. He called him the white guy. He didn't know his name. So
But
I just
anyway,
want to
that's
add that.
that's compared to the Philippines, who didn't even get anywhere close to 20 assists. I think the most they had was 16, and that was well, actually they had 17 against Angola. I think they had less when they were taking on Dominican Republic. The number of assists is a direct reflection of the motion that other players do, and that's the team that I would look to, because I actually wrote a piece on Latvia. That's why I just know what they've done. So like the
Well,
Latvians though, it's good.
I think the difference between our us Latvians, us Filipinos,
Oh
those
no.
I'm not going to Latvia, man. I mean, the difference between us Filipinos and those Latvians have the basics
The
down pat.
Philippines are now
That's the
0-2
difference
in
Yeah.
Group
between,
A
the
of the FIBA World
European
Cup after
Yeah, man.
players.
losing to
They
Angola
go basics. They
80-70.
go from
Gilas
dribbling
Pilipinas
to
enjoyed an
passing, then
11-point
to
edge in the
shooting,
second
right?
quarter but
And
saw
they
that
just go with the
advantage
motion
slowly
offense.
get chipped away
These
as
Filipinos,
Angola took over. The
I mean
Filipinos
Bolak,
then
right?
put
In terms
together
of our
one more
Filipino
desperate
language,
attempt,
right?
claiming a
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
15-point
nicer
lead with
ball.
over 3 minutes
Yeah.
left to just
So,
5,
Our
man,
73,
our
68.
our
But
way of learning
Gerson
basketball
Domingos
is
hit
Papogi
a
style
dagger
of
triple off
basketball.
an assist
If they're
from
if they're
NBA
yeah,
big
batting
man
Yeah,
on the
Bruno
that's pretty
sidelines,
Fernando
good.
with 47
give me the
ticks
Pretty
left.
ball.
good. Yeah.
Jordan
Yeah,
Clarkson had
yeah.
21
You
I
gotta
points
mean,
and
hit all
7
these
I
assists,
reverse
mean,
while
layups
AJ
and all
Edu
the
that.
chipped
only
in
That's
9 more.
sport, I think the only sport that we will support, or the majority will support, is basketball, and I don't think we have the best grassroots program for basketball,
yeah. We don't. We
right?
don't.
Yeah, I
So, I
agree.
mean, we're in trouble in terms of our competition in the future. So, it's gonna be dark times.
It's
I
gonna be
think
a problem.
it's gonna be a dark
Gonna
times
gonna be
ahead.
gonna be dark
It's gonna
times
be a
ahead
dark
for
times ahead.
Philippine basketball.
You know,
Absolutely, I agree.
unless the Americans here, get their groove on, and in 18 years we have a roster full of NBA
Filipino
player,
Americans.
yeah,
Hey,
Filipino
that's
Americans, yeah,
that's the secret to winning. Is just have a lot of. Is just send these Filipino, like half Filipino, half American guys. Let
yeah.
them go to college, play college basketball in the U.S., and then bring them back here and have them, play for the Philippine national team, and that's probably what's gonna get you to, close to the top of
Yeah,
Asian basketball even.
yeah.
So yeah,
But you
That's
know,
true.
but joking aside, the SBP need to work on our grassroots program because a
yeah,
lot of kids love to play basketball, and if you develop that at a certain young age, right, they're gonna develop the good players even though they're not 6'5" or 6'10", you know. But still,
yeah,
another
absolutely.
thing though, height still matters. So
We
no
just need to
problem.
import our bigs and teach our guards to play correctly. Teach our guards
Yeah,
the fundamentals, and then just import a big who already knows how to play. That's the formula. I've unlocked the formula to winning basketball in the Philippines.
Bring back Andre Blatch.
Oh man, remember Andre Blatch when he was playing with the Philippines?
Nah.
He was a 3-point shooter for the
yeah.
Philippines. He was
Yeah. It's
this
like,
big
dude, stay
guy.
inside the paint, man. And he's like, nah, I'll pop.
He was a 3-point shooter. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember those days.
All right.
Man,
Anyways, we've talked
start time's
about
ahead, man.
the U.S. national
Yeah,
team
it's. I
and
think we've lost
also
Brain
Gilas
again, actually. But
Pilipinas.
Oh yeah,
but
So,
here's the thing. Just to be serious with Philippine basketball is, I think there should be less focus on looking good and having highlights and all that. Because
yeah,
even when I was, growing up and doing basketball, there was a huge focus on looking good.
yeah.
You
With
had
the
to,
layups,
yeah, hit the nice shots. Yeah, yeah, I had
are you
to
guys
yeah,
learn
there?
how
Are you
to.
guys there?
Yeah, yeah, we're here. We're
yeah.
here.
Welcome back,
You
man.
were the one missing. You were the one missing. We've always been here.
My bad, my bad. All
Anyway.
right. So we've talked about
Philip,
U.S. basketball
Philippine
and Gilas
internet.
Pilipinas. Yeah, sorry, Philippines internet.
Yeah,
Um, the Jersey Short season 2 episode 6 has been a
Mm-hmm.
blast with you guys.
yeah,
Hopefully,
This
we'll
was
get to
fun.
have Epic soon with us, and he'll get to talk to us and tell us about his experience covering the FIBA World Cup. So
Mm-hmm.
make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, subscribe to YouTube, and follow us on TikTok as well. So, till next time, adios, amigos.
oh,
Oh, yeah. See ya.
there's a delay there, but
Yeah,
see you
delay.
guys.
Yeah. Anyway, bye.